What's going on, creators? Anthony here, and in this video we are going to talk about teleprompters. Now, for those of you who don't know, a teleprompter is a basic tool that allows us to take a script, which I usually have loaded up on a phone or an iPad. We place that on the front of the teleprompter. That is then going to reflect up onto this slanted piece of glass. And then on the back, we can actually have our camera essentially mounted. And now that's going to look through the glass. You can now read the script directly off of the glass and you'll be looking into the teleprompter. This is what the entire device looks like when it's all kind of put together. So that's what a teleprompter is. Let's talk about the problems it solves for content creators. Well, for me getting started, I was not confident on camera. I wasn't good at just talking off script. I'm still getting better every day, but the teleprompter was essentially a tool that allowed me to overcome that lack of confidence by putting in the work beforehand, researching, writing out a literal word for word script. So when I sat down in that intimidating chair in front of the camera, I could kind of turn my brain off and just focus on reading and sounding natural. So it can help us overcome that initial barrier of getting on camera. The other thing it can help us do is really streamline the process of creating content. So a lot of times when I'm creating content for our YouTube channel, my social media channels, course content like this, I'll actually sit down days before I record the video, and I will just script out tons and tons of video content. Then once I'm finished scripting all of the content that I know I want to produce, I will then sit down and literally read one video after another. And then finally, I'll go into the stage of editing all that content. What this essentially allows us to do is batch produce all of our content. This way, we're not just writing a video, shooting it and editing it, and then repeating the process. We can get a lot more done by kind of having a conveyor belt approach. So it's definitely a useful tool, but I would say it's also not a tool that's meant for everyone. I think there are different types of content creators. There are different types of people who prefer presenting on camera without a teleprompter. As helpful as this was for me getting started, I talk with many other people who, getting started, the teleprompter actually ended up making them sound way more robotic and less natural. And that's because, yeah, reading can be easy, but sounding natural and like a human while we're reading a script can be really hard. It's like learning how to play the piano. You definitely get better at it over time, and certain people have a better aptitude for reading a script on camera versus sitting down and just free flowing, maybe with a few bullet points they want to follow. So big picture, I wouldn't buy a teleprompter thinking you're just going to be absolutely amazing reading a script from it on day one. But if you are really struggling to just deliver content while speaking directly into your camera without a script, then I would highly recommend a tool like this. Now, this teleprompter that I'm using right now is the Momon T12. You can get it on Amazon for $149. This is actually a slightly new addition to my family of gear. I used to use this teleprompter right here, which is the Glide Gear TMP 100. Now, I really like this teleprompter. It is actually a little bit more expensive, coming in at $199, but I actually ended up hitting some limitations with that teleprompter. It's not as compatible with different camera brands that are different sizes. It's a little bit harder to use an iPhone with it, and it also doesn't have this quick release plate in the back. You'll notice here, once I lift this off, I can slide the camera and I have this mount at the bottom. This is a very universal tripod mount that also now works on my teleprompter, which is super helpful because I can slide the camera on and off different devices without having to unscrew that bottom thread. On the flip side, this Glide Gear TMP just has a screw thread mount. So literally every time I wanted to take my camera off, I had to unscrew it or screw it on. So a little frustrating, but the biggest thing was this basic gap right here. The height of where we mount the camera on this teleprompter can't really be changed. There's no adjustments here. And so if I wanted to film vertical content for social media instead of regular horizontal content, I was finding that most of my cameras just wouldn't work with this. And also it was kind of a pain in the butt to try to mount a smartphone to this Glide Gear teleprompter. So I think overall the Momon is definitely the better buy. It's also less expensive. It has a mount here at the bottom that allows us to essentially adjust that height, which is really helpful. It has the quick release plate functionality, which I absolutely love. And then it also, straight out of the box, comes with a smartphone adapter. So you can take this, loosen it with this little screw right here. You can just loosen this screw right here, which will allow you to move it however you like. You can screw that into the plate right here, tighten it up to lock down the position you want. And then you can place your phone right in this little mount right here. You just gotta whip this guy around so that we block out any of that extra light. And now we have a super simple smartphone teleprompter setup that also allows us to rotate the phone and get vertical or horizontal content. Now, the last thing I want to touch on with teleprompters is the actual device we're using to reflect the script onto the teleprompter. Online, you see a lot of people using iPads, and I would honestly not recommend using an iPad unless it was your only option. The issue here is if you're standing or sitting just a few feet away from your teleprompter as it's set up on a tripod, the distance of an iPad going from left to right is pretty dang large. So you're gonna start reading and it's gonna be easy to tell that your eyes are going from left to right as you read your script. And I think that's pretty off-putting. The viewer will be able to tell you're reading. It's not as authentic. I wouldn't recommend it. So instead, I usually recommend using an iPhone or some other smartphone device. And then you actually wanna mount it essentially the narrow way. That's gonna reduce the amount of space that your eyes have to travel and it won't look like you're reading a script. So that's what I recommend for devices. The next recommendation is the app that we actually use on our devices. Now, the Momon actually has an app that you can use and it has this nifty little controller that comes with it as well. That's definitely a good option, but I actually think the better option is to download an app called Prompt Smart Pro. It is a small investment, but I found that it's the absolute easiest to use teleprompter app on the market. And my absolute favorite feature is the fact that it will actually listen to your voice reading the script and it will scroll automatically for you. What you're seeing on camera right now is actually the teleprompter app just moving the script as it listens to me speak. This is key because once you load up your script and hit play now, you don't have to set a predetermined scroll speed that now is going to dictate the pace at which you read your content. You can just start reading and however it is naturally coming out of your mouth, that's the pace that the teleprompter app is going to follow. Now, you obviously have to be close enough to your actual phone where the microphones can pick up on what you're saying. I've also heard that the best language detection is English right now. It does do other languages, but it definitely does the best with English. But that's basically it. You download that app, then you take the script from wherever you wrote it. That's usually Google Docs for me. I copy it, I paste it into Prompt Smart Pro. I make sure that the voice track setting is on. I hit play, load it up onto the teleprompter, hit record on my camera, and I'm off to the races. So hopefully you found this video valuable. If you do want to buy this teleprompter, as always, I've linked the gear underneath this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.